And I'll just confine myself instead to a few comments on stuff that's come up today that I found really interesting. So, look at that. Okay, I'll do them all at once. So, the community benefit requirements of the REAP offer an unprecedented development opportunity for those communities that do benefit from it. But they also unleash this idea of local power. So it's not just about actual energy power, it's also about local power. And as Holla said, the how of people engagement in delivering these benefits has not been addressed in an informed or systematic way. Well, the case for renewables, I think, listening today, I think I can confidently say the case for renewables is established technologically, economically, financially, scientifically, even politically, climate deniers notwithstanding. But it's not so well established socially and politically, at least not at local levels and at least not in South Africa. And I think Rick mentioned social license, and I really like that as a shorthand term. We haven't yet established social license in South Africa to deliver the benefits of renewable energy as required according to our REAP. And of course the South African community context is one that everybody who's worked on the ground here will be well familiar with. Three features that stand out for me. We still have a context characterized by structural inequality and continued social exclusion, which echoes apartheid's patterns. Everywhere around the country, we're hearing the cry, apartheid is still with us, and it's still with the communities that are impacted by the REAP. And it's something that, as a matter of urgency, as people working in South Africa, we have to face and take on board. We no longer have the benefit of the rainbow nation to distract us with. We also have widespread growing contestation around governance in all forms and at all levels. Some people will say the uprising has begun in South Africa, and anybody working on the ground will know that. We've got service delivery protests, we've got student protests, we have contestation everywhere. And certainly in the experience of those working on renewable energy on the ground, they will have experienced that also. And finally, we have civic institutions, people's organizations, which have got incredibly strong expressive abilities. They're able to express themselves politically, they're able to articulate their identities very clearly, and they're able to express their wishes and their sense of entitlement, particularly of the welfare state, but also of resources that come their way, including the goodies of the REAP. But they have very poor absorption and administrative capacity. So we've got incredibly strong local institutions that are not good at doing what REAP benefit wants them to do or needs them to do. So you can imagine all of this context creates big problems, big potential problems that might be avoidable, but nevertheless we're always at risk of doing, in the old adage, more harm than good. So what could that harm be? Well, if we're lucky, it could just be weak impact. Yeah. We gave the kids Christmas boxes. It was nice. Everyone was happy. We had a picnic. Yeah. Nothing. Inadequate impact. Or we could have seepage. We could have a loss of resources. We could have poor administration. We've got the bogey of theft, of corruption, of things just being misplaced. It's unfortunate, but that often happens in contexts of weak institutions and poor practice. We've got the danger of exacerbating existing social and political difficulties, which might be damaging or harmful. We're already in a context of volatility and contestation, so our efforts might end up exacerbating those, and that would be harmful. And finally, of course, we've got the real danger of igniting volatile responses, which I would suggest could be calamitous. So, the big question is, how might local power, as it emerges through the vehicle of community, we like to talk about community in South Africa, be best understood and engaged towards maximizing the potential of the REAP requirements? And I think the big thing here is, we talk about local power, and when we work in the helping, those of us who come from the helping professions work with these dilemmas a lot, but anybody who wants to help, or anybody who's obliged to help, as is the case in the REAP, we might quite easily fall into characterizing the people who are the recipients of our help as somehow sort of in need, needy, helpless perhaps, but actually there's massive power at a community level, if only to act, or as Holla pointed out, to disrupt and to resist. So we ignore local power at our peril. So given this sort of slightly scary and gloomy scenario I'm painting, what can we do? And I want to offer that experience suggests what we need to do is build an intentionally develop a practice, an institutional practice for the organizations that are here, so the individual IPPs, building an institutional practice that is characterized by skilled responsivity. Iterative mechanisms for learning and change, because the big thing that comes out of a practice of people who've worked in community development will know that things are changing all the time. And if things are changing all the time, you need to be changing what you do all the time. So for those of you who've studied management and know all about the learning organization and reflective learning, the reflexive organization, the reflexive practitioner, you need that even more when you're working in community development. Because whatever happens on the ground needs to come into your organization and actually change what you do all the time. Another feature of the skilled responsivity is you've got to face that you're working with power and you're working in relationship. And again, wonderful models for how this might sort of play out, ways of sequencing the work, ways of skilling it, ways of resourcing it, and so on. There's a lot there. But always review at the end. Whatever we do in community, we need to come back and review and reflect on and see how that changes what we do next. A final feature is that a skilled responsivity in this context requires engaging seriously with institutions as mechanisms for resource distribution. Sorry, I'm just going to go to my extra notes here. And I think this thing about institutions is really important. Holla touched on it, Rick mentioned it, Doreen mentioned it. It's not just about calling individuals and communities to our new little institution that we've created, our REAP office, our whatever we call it. As a practice, what's needed is some kind of method and strategy for engaging institutions that can become sort of helpers, helpful mechanisms for resource distribution, but also that can then themselves have their capacities grown through that process of engagement. So, working institutionally, you'll be doing a whole lot of things at once. You'd be protecting your own institutional assets, you'd be building social capital and contributing to the your own long-term legacy through working with local and other institutions. And I just want to give some examples of what these local and other institutions might be. Doreen talked a lot about local government and the challenge to actually grapple with local government in South Africa in all of its perfections and all of its uneven imperfections. Faith-based organizations, they're amongst the strongest institutions in communities. Civic organizations, women's organizations, schools, labor, health groups. One of the biggest mechanisms of community organizing in South Africa at the moment is through health groups. Public health is rolling itself out into home-based care and community-based care. These are little institutions that exist in communities already. Agriculture, other research bodies, other private sector initiatives, including other REAP initiatives, tourism, commerce. These are all local institutions that need to be engaged with. And I just think that, and the major point here is that without which this approach, the risk of contributing to outcomes that could be inadequate, unfortunate, damaging or calamitous is really real. So thanks very much. Sorry I couldn't shorten as I hoped to, but yeah, I think it's almost tea time. Thank you.